What's going on, everyone? Cyclops from Paramount Cyclops here. And if this story that I'm going to do here surprises you at all, then it's honestly your own fault. If any of this information makes you go, what? I didn't know that. Well, then you need to look at where you're getting your sources, and you need to add some new sources of information. You see, people who live in an echo chamber don't know things. Like, people didn't know. I just this morning got into an online discussion with someone who didn't know that Trump had brokered peace in the Middle East. What? How do you not know this? If you don't know this, then you need to expand your horizons. You need to add more sources of news to your diet. So let's read this from the Daily Mail. Leaked tapes reveal CNN boss Jeff Zucker approved burying the Hunter Biden story in run-up to election, while another senior exec said Cuban Americans would vote for Trump because they like bullies. Yeah, because, Cuban Americans didn't come here to get away from a bully at all. Yeah. Recordings of CNN's daily editorial meeting released by Project Veritas, which incidentally CNN is trying to sue to get them to stop releasing these tapes. And Project Veritas, if you've watched enough of Project Veritas, they have a motus operandi in the way that they release these tapes. Every single time it's the same way. And they do it to maximize the story, maximize the impact of the story, and also to maximize their views. They never bring out the big gun video first. They always start with a little bit, just to get people to be like, whoa, that's weird. And then a little bit more. Then they will release the big story, the big, hey, here's the big one. This one is going to shock you. And then they release more little ones. Maximizes their profit, maximizes the story, maximizes the spotlight time on the story. It's a pretty good tactic, actually. Let's see. So the videos released by Project Veritas show how CNN deliberately ignored the Hunter Biden Ukraine story, saying they obviously wouldn't cover it and that it was an attempt by Trump's team to throw stuff at the wall before the election. But it wasn't. I mean, we have legal documents. It's absolutely known. You can't even deny it happened. It absolutely happened. 100%. Everything points to it happened. There's paperwork. There's record. It's not something that someone threw against the wall to see if it would stick. It happened. It was real. It's true. It's factual. Hunter Biden did indeed get a job in a position that he had no experience in and was making bank. And the way he got that job was through his father, Joe Biden, using his political position to garner him that job. Biden's family, his entire family, profits off Biden. In leaked telephone conference calls of the news network's 9 a.m. editorial meetings. Now, editorial meetings are an interesting one. I have a nice little thing up here. I used to work at a TV station. I used to produce movies, and I used to produce TV shows, and I used to produce commercials. I used to produce commercials for the state, actually, too. And editorial meetings are not what you would think. Editorial meetings are not, what is this story you got? What evidence do you have? Okay, all right, get on it, get me more evidence, prove this story is true and run with it. That's Spider-Man movie stuff. Editorial meetings are, what do you got? Okay, yeah, no, we're not going to run that story because it doesn't fit our narrative. They don't specifically say it doesn't fit our narrative, but they will tell you, no, we're not going to run that story. Or, you run that story? You have proof of this? Okay, well, here's what we're going to say on that. I want you to change this to that and that and that. Okay. So editorial meetings. Editorial meetings are where a newspaper gets together to cover their ass and to see what they can do to maximize profit. That's what an editorial meeting is. Senior staff tell CNN boss Jeff Zucker that the network should downplay the bombshell story. Yeah, that is exactly how an editorial meeting works. Yes, I got this story, and it's amazing, and I'd really like to break it It's about corruption in the New Mexico state government that I discovered when I was there filming a commercial for the New Mexico state government, ironically, and just so happened to see this thing, and I caught it on camera because, well, the camera was set up, and I was setting everything else up, and it was recording, and, oh, you got what? Let me see it. Okay, well, you know what? Here's how we're going to say this. We're going to say this and that and this and that, and and as it goes through the editorial process, it goes from the story of clear cut, yeah, I busted you, to it's an open-ended question. It's crazy how they can do that. The power of the media. The power of the media. I'm telling you what. Zucker also tells his staff that he doesn't think we should be repeating unsubstantiated smears just because the right-wing media suggests that we should. But they weren't unsubstantiated. There's plenty of paperwork. There's a trail. You can add 2 plus 2 and get 4 from it. He later called it a rabbit hole, saying the Breitbart, New York Post, Fox News rabbit hole of the Hunter Biden, which I don't think anybody outside that world understood. How Joe Biden, used his political position against another country to get his son a position within a company that paid very, very, very well, even though his son had zero experience, zero time in that field. Come on now. I like facts, I like evidence, but sometimes you can just look at a duck and know that it's a duck. You don't have to measure its web footing. You don't have to tickle it to hear it honk. You don't have to take a picture of it and research it and send it off to the government to say, is this a duck? You can look at the duck and see that it's a duck. The story, which was first revealed in the New York Post, revealed emails that allegedly came from Hunter Biden's laptop and shed light on questionable foreign business dealings he had both before and after his father was vice president. CNN political director David Chalian can be heard telling Zucker that the news network would obviously not be covering the story. Yeah, obviously we won't cover this. I can't tell you how annoying it is to work at a TV station and have something that is substantial, sitting there, spending the hours to edit it. And at that station, we couldn't take it home to edit. We had to edit it in the editing room on their computers. Well, on their computers, they have access to it. You can go there, and they have the rights to go in and just go in and start changing things around, and it is annoying. So I feel that. Obviously, we're not going to run this story that goes against our narrative. Well, obviously you're not. Obviously, we're not going with the New York Post story right now on Hunter Biden. I know. Chalian, who is also CNN's vice president, went on, obviously, Hunter Biden's lawyer is quoted in the New York Post piece, and we'll just continue to report out. This is the very stuff that the president was impeached over. This is the stuff that the... Gosh, I gotta reread this. Chalian, who is also CNN's vice president, went on. Obviously, Hunter Biden's lawyer is quoted in the New York Post piece, and, well, we'll just continue to report out. This is the very stuff that the president was impeached over. So basically just trying to downplay it and say, well, yeah, this is the stuff that the president was impeached over, so that way people can associate it with the impeachment, I'm assuming. This is the stuff that Senate committees looked at and found nothing wrong in Joe Biden's interactions with Ukrainians, and now having an email that perhaps there was a meeting with someone from Burisma, it seems. What a confusing sentence. Okay. Rudy Giuliani's sort of dreamo-vision of how to throw stuff at the wall in these closing days of the campaign. But there is evidence. Hunter Biden obviously happened. It happened. I don't understand how you can say obviously it didn't happen. It obviously did happen. Hunter Biden didn't have any experience. He had no business being in that position. That's like you go to work and you're number 2 man in the company and you're looking to be number 1 man in the company, but number 1 man in the company, one day you go in and number 1 man in the company has his kid there. And he says, well, my kid is taking over this position, and his kid knows nothing in the field. Come on now. It's a duck. During that same conference call, CNN Executive Vice President and General Counsel David Vigilante can be heard telling Zucker that we should be awfully careful regarding coverage of the Hunter Biden story. Yes, because that's how we want our news, to be careful of what stories they cover. And not careful in the sense of we want to make sure we have our facts straight, but careful of, does this story fit our narrative or does it go against our narrative? At one point, he questioned why some political reporters from other organizations had posted the story to their social media. Because it's news. Because you want your viewers to be informed of the news. Of both sides of the news, or all three sides of the news, or all four sides of the news. You want them to be able to make their own opinion with the best facts that you can present them with the resources that you have. Simple. What in the world are New York Times reporter Maggie Haberman and political reporter Jake Sherman doing, retweeting that story? Vigilante asked with surprise. Passing the news with the best information that they have at the time and letting their viewers make their own opinion. The following week, the day after the last presidential debate in which President Trump went after Biden over the revelations regarding his son, Zucker once again could be heard brushing the story aside and referred to it as a rabbit hole that I don't think anybody outside of that right-wing media world understood last night. So in other words, you're calling people on the left dumb. Only people on the right can understand it. People on the left are too dumb to understand it. Cool. The Trump media, moves immediately from, okay, well, never mind, to the latest alleged scandal and expects everybody to just follow suit, Zucker said on the call. Yes, that's what happens. The news changes very fast. You might report on one story today with a set of information that's the best set of information you have today, and then the next day it's totally different. Yeah, yes. Welcome to the news, CNN. So I don't think that we should be repeating unsubstantiated smears just because the right-wing media suggests that we should. But it's news. It's news. If you think it's unsubstantiated, then you passed off as we believe that it is unsubstantiated. However, other news networks are passing it as substantiated. We ask that you base your own opinion and do your own research, and we are going to disseminate the information that we have forthwith as we have it, and we will do updates as they are. But as a precautionary note, we ask that you do your own research and form your own opinion. This right now, in our opinion, is unsubstantiated, but you don't bury the story. You don't just say, nope, I'm not gonna freaking, no. You didn't bury the story, you freaking straight erased it. Trump's continuing to undermine the election integrity with baseless claims of fraud, okay? But it's not up to you to figure out if they're baseless. It's up to the courts. If someone makes an accusation of a crime, then it is up to the investigatory body to decide if a crime happened or not. It is not up to you to decide. And he's continuing to do it. That leads to the question of whether or not Trump in himself is a national security threat in light of what he is doing and in light of what he did at the debate. What? Okay, so because you have questions about Trump's actions, you're going to bury a story about his political opponent? I always like to remove the names when I think about a story in my head, because I don't care about the names. I care about the situation. I care about the story. I care about the context itself. So you have a president that is running against another person who's campaigning to be president, and there are some dire questions about the moral conduct of the person that is campaigning against the president. And you have a news story that won't release that and then is making and passing judgment on the president themselves, acting as legal and investigatory body all in one. Well, that to me says, well, why? What? I would highly question a story that came out on that. Also on Wednesday, in a third release from Project Veritas, CNN executive Cynthia Hudson could be heard expressing her opinion over Trump's influence over Cuban voters in Miami ahead of the election, saying they are attracted to bullies. They're attracted to bullies, yeah, because Cuban Americans didn't leave Cuba to get away from a bully. couldn't possibly have been why they wanted to come to the land of freedom, right? Make themselves better, get away from a bully. Okay, most Cubans I know don't like bullies. They don't. She surmises that the Cuban population in Florida would be likely to vote for Trump. Gosh darn, it's too early in the morning. Would be likely to vote for Trump because they are attracted to bullies. Nice. Perfect. Putting all of an individual in a box, all of a group. Florida Cubans like bullies, that's why they're going to vote for Trump. Nice. Perfect. Well, at least we know your views and we know how you feel. No one is countering it properly in Florida. The Cubans are going to vote for Trump, and that's terrifying. You hear that, Cubans? Florida Cubans, evidently. Not all Cubans. Just Florida Cubans. According to her. Not my logic. You like bullies? That's her view. That's just... Wow. I think there's a way to counter the Biden is a socialist narrative in Florida that is not being taken advantage of. Oh yeah, what is it? The recording was from September 9th, when there was just under 2 months to go until the election. Trump has used the communism, socialism rhetoric as part of his hook for the Cubans in Miami. How that has resonated and how the Biden team has not done enough to counter that, Hudson says. The only reason they are supporting Trump is because of that narrative. And that narrative, and the fact that I have to say, there's a population that's very attracted to bullies. That is a heck of a view of an entire population. But I believe in free speech. I believe people should be able to say their piece because, well, now we know where she stands. Now we know what she thinks. I mean, now we can see it. Hudson, who is the senior vice president and managing director of CNN in Espanol, went to say that no one is countering Trump's effective messaging in Florida. Because nobody could. It was effective messaging because it was derivative from the truth. Was it manipulated? Sure. Yeah, it was. It was manipulated for shock value. It was manipulated for maximum effect. As is all ads. Every single one. The whole thing, Trump grab him by the pussy, was maximized for maximum effect against Trump. They cut out the first whole portion of that phrase. The whole phrase was, when you're rich, women let you grab them by the pussy. They let you. So in other words, these women had choice, and they chose. So aren't we supposed to respect a woman's choice? So if they chose it, then that's what they chose. Who am I to say, hey, you chose it? You let him. You wanted him to, so you let him. So I'm like, okay, you chose it. But that's the news. Cut and splice and put forth a narrative that fits your narrative. That's why independent media is so much better. These big organizations, they can get a story wrong and still make their millions and go home and feed their family. If independent media get the story wrong, then we get lambasted, we get nothing for it but heartache and trouble. That's why I like to try to tell as many multiple sides of a story as I can. I do research on many sides as I can, from dissenting opinions, left-leaning media, right-leaning media. So the Cubans are going to vote for Trump, and that's terrifying. And so I think there is a way to counter the narrative in Florida that's not being taken advantage of. Project Veritas founder James O'Keefe has said he secretly recorded network president Jeff Zucker's morning conference calls for months. Yeah. And CNN is currently trying to sue to get Project Veritas to not. They may have a standing. Wiretapping laws. They may have a standing. O'Keefe on Tuesday said he would be releasing audio recordings of several network meetings, which he claims will expose Zucker and other CNN executives expressing their political biases. And if you are shocked by CNN having a political bias, then, like I said earlier, that's your fault. You have not done enough research. You haven't included enough separate news in your diet. And you are news anorexic. News bias. Can we ever get away with it? Well, if independent media takes over, then it would at least pressure these big mainstream media corporations to be better. There's nothing better for progressing than competition. If mainstream media has competition, then they will have to adjust and get better in order to survive. Nothing wrong with good competition. I love you guys, and I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you on the next one.